Can you imagine you're a parent and your son leaves the house and you say, Jimmy, I love you so much. Go have a good day in school. And your son comes back with a brutal operation. Can you even imagine this? What the hell is wrong with our country?
That was Trump at his latest rally, claiming now that students are going to school and coming back having transitioned to a different gender. I legitimately don't know who needs to hear this, other than perhaps the fools who believe what he's feeding them, but there is not a single iota of evidence that would prove this claim. No one, literally 0 people in the United States of America are going to school and coming back a different gender. But Donald Trump has so much oozing contempt for his supporters that this is the kind of lazy nonsense he doles out, believing full well that they'll take all of it at face value. I've never seen anyone who had less respect for his own supporters more than Donald Trump. In fact, Trump's spokesperson, Carolyn Leavitt, was asked for any evidence of Donald Trump's claims, and her answer is a clinic in deflection. She said, "I have personally spoken to several individuals whose children were undergoing transition, being called entirely different names at school, and the parents were never notified. These cases don't always make the news because parents fear backlash, but their stories are nevertheless truthful and very concerning." None of which offers, again, a modicum of evidence that there are any kids transitioning to a different gender in school, unbeknownst to their parents. But again, what do you expect from a campaign who treats their own fans as abject fools? And this isn't even the only time that Donald Trump has made this insane claim. He literally said the same thing just last week.
The things that almost nobody in this room wants, who I think 85–90% of the country doesn't want if they actually.
I absolutely agree with you.
But the transgender thing is incredible. Think of it. Your kid goes to school and comes home a few days later with an operation. The school decides what's going to happen with your child. And you know, many of these childs 15 years later say, what the hell happened? Who did this to me?
So I don't know if Donald Trump is just that hell-bent on lying to his supporters, or if he's actually repeated this lie so many times that he's convinced himself of it, but either way, the notion that this bullshit has become part of his stump speech is a testament to the straight disinformation that he relies on. Consider too, maybe instead of fear-mongering about non-existent transition surgeries happening in schools, Republicans might worry about the actual massacres happening in schools at the hands of guns. But of course, why worry about that when you can instead wail on an endless loop about trans kids and drag queens and queer books? Can someone watching do me a favor and remind me how many kids died in school this year because of LGBT books? Because I can't be sure, but something tells me it's just a tad fewer than those who died from AR-15s. In fact, Donald Trump was just confronted with the latest mass shooting, and his response to that actual problem, a problem that actually exists, as opposed to the non-existent problem of transition surgeries during algebra class, was this.
It's horrible to see that happening. That's just horrible. So surprising to see it here. But we'll have to get over it.
Quote, "We have to get over it." Man, if only he got as animated about kids getting slaughtered on a daily basis in school as he does about the imaginary issue of kids changing gender in class. And Trump has set a pretty dismal precedent that other Republicans are content to follow. Here's J.D. Vance, Donald Trump's own VP pick, also bungling this exact question.
Look, I don't like this. I don't like to admit this. I don't like that this is a fact of life. But if you are a psycho and you want to make headlines, you realize that our schools are soft targets. And we have got to bolster security at our schools so that a person who walks through the front door we've got to bolster security so that if a psycho wants to walk through the front door and kill a bunch of children, they're not able to. And again, as a parent, do I want my kids' school to have additional security? No, of course I don't. I don't want my kids to go to school in a place where they feel like you've got to have additional security, but that is increasingly the reality that we live in.
That it's a fact of life. We can't do anything about it, that's just how it is. If only there were people in this country in positions where they could actually influence stuff like laws and the ease with which people can get their hands on guns. If only J.D. Vance was in one of those positions. Bummer, huh? I mean, honestly, these people are running for office. They are literally running to be in positions of power where they can make laws to make people safe, where they can prevent the wrong people from getting their hands on guns. And yet, because they're so extreme on this issue, they pretend that the only country in the world where kids get slaughtered in their classrooms is somehow just a fact of life that we have no choice but to accept. Look, If your political ideology is tolerating dead kids in school hallways, then I'm sorry, but your political ideology is straight garbage. And yet, while Donald Trump and J.D. Vance cry helpless at gun violence, you can still manage to find the subjects that Trump is especially passionate about.
And then the press, when I say Dr. Hannibal Lecter, the press says, oh, why did he mention that? They're wise guys back there, just wise guys. They say he rambled and started talking about Hannibal Lecter. What does that have to do? That's a representative of people that are coming into our country. Dr. Hannibal Lecter, he will have you for dinner. You know that? He will have you for dinner.
Ah yes, another part of Donald Trump's stump speech, talking about an imaginary cannibal. Except now, he's claiming that Hannibal Lecter is, quote, representative of the people coming into our country. Representative of who? Cannibals? Seriously, guys, I know I rag on Donald Trump a lot because he's a moron, but what in the actual fuck is this guy talking about? He even admits that he knows Hannibal is a cannibal because he says in the clip that he'll have you for dinner. So does he actually think that immigrants are cannibals? Or is that just the natural progression of this guy's desperate attempts to fearmonger? Which, by the way, would make sense. In the same way that he's trying to convince his base that kids are transitioning to different genders at school, he's also reached the point where he's trying to convince his base that immigrants are so dangerous that they are literally eating other Americans. This is what it looks like when someone's campaign is flailing so badly, they resort to selling the most transparent fear porn known to man. But at the end of the day, that's what this is. It's that his campaign is a sinking ship and Donald Trump knows it, and so he's just ramping everything up to a 10. There's not just immigrants, there are human flesh-eating immigrants. Not just trans kids, but they're getting transition surgery in school. Everything is this dystopian hellscape, everything is miserable, everything is bad, everything is dangerous. That's Donald Trump's campaign, trying to convince people that America is terrible. And that's a point, by the way, that Tim Walz put on full display here.
Door-to-door, phone call to phone call. It's going to be engaging people who it is a deliberate effort by some people to make them believe that our political system is broken, to make them believe that things are pessimistic. My God, every time I hear Donald Trump give a speech, it's like the next screenplay for Mad Max or something. They're rooting against America. They do not believe in the exceptionalism of this country. They do not believe in the people who built this country. They simply want to complain about them. And by you coming here and talking neighbor to neighbor, that's what inspires people. My wife always talks about this. She said, I don't read the paper to see the movie reviews. I ask people that I know what they think about it. And they tell me that's the same thing that's going on here. And I think all of you in this room, it's not hyperbole to say, this election could very well hinge on this county here and this field office here and the folks that we get out. That is an awesome responsibility, but it's also an awesome opportunity.
The fact is that Donald Trump hates this country as it actually exists. He hates progress, he hates diversity, he hates freedom, he hates everything that makes America what it is today. That's why he's so desperate to go back in time to an America that was much more focused on catering to, oh, I don't know, wealthy, well-connected, powerful white men and no one else. Shocker, huh? So when he tries to sell you on his idea of an America from a century ago, just know that he's not looking out for the poor, he's not looking out for the working class, he's not looking out for minorities, he's not looking out for women or young people or the elderly, he is looking out for himself. Because when it comes to Donald Trump, his priority is and always will be Donald Trump. Before you go, just a quick note, if you'd like to see more of my content, which is always free of advertising, sponsorships, and paywalls, please make sure to subscribe to this channel using the subscribe button right here on the screen. And if you'd like to support my work even further, you can grab a copy of my instant #1 New York Times selling book, Shameless, available for sale right now. That link is also on the screen. Thanks so much for watching.